Welcome everybody to the 23rd Health Teaching Workshop of the Kesh Foundation and Spaceship Institute. Today's topic is the mammary gland, the eyes of the chest area. And with that very mysterious topic, we will be speaking, Dr. Elia Kostova of the Kesh Foundation Spaceship Institute will be describing to us the anatomy of the mammary gland and its aspect as the eyes of the chest area. Okay, without further ado, let's move into the workshop. Dr. Kostova, are you there? Hello, Elia. Not hearing you yet, Elia. Maybe we need the microphone on there.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Very clearly, thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you and the 23rd Kesh Foundation Health Workshop. Today, the subject is mammary gland and eyes of the chest area. So we start with the first slide. First slide is a representation for you, the organization of our chest area. And how you know from the previous workshop, our chest area have like a core shape, and the outside core, this is the rib cage. The rib cage have so specific shape, and how you see in the middle two pictures, this is so similar like our two hemispheres of our brain. So actually the left and right side of our rib cage, this is the left and right side of our brain. In the middle we have in the middle is all the internal organs what we have inside of our rib cage. So inside of the rib cage, how you remember, we have two lungs, left and right. In the middle of them, we have mediastinum. In the place of mediastinum, we have a heart, and also that place is so rich of the lymph nodes. Specific shape of the lungs, we consider that this is the shape, repetitive shape, like two hemispheres of our brain, like two kidney and some kind of glands in our body. So it is important to know that the rib cage has the specific shape of our two hemispheres. Also, our two lungs, they're in the same shape. In the middle, we have a heart. When we spoke about the different star formations in our body, we say that in the star formation in our chest area, heart represent actually the thalamus. This is the shortcut for our thalamus. So above the rib cage starts to organize the shape of our thoracic area with different muscles. Some of them they're on the deep level, some of them they are more superficial. They connect different bones from the rib cage, also from the upper arms, and have one teeny muscle which is actually behind the skin, which connect and move our glandulae mammae. From the men, the presentation of the chest area is with muscle, skin, and glandula mammae is in rudimental state. For the women, above the muscles, we have connective tissue, and above that we have a fat and organization of duct system inside and in the middle of the fat tissue. Then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation of the specific shape of glandular mammae. How you see we have a difference between the men and women because the function of that gland is specific for genital. For the women, the function of the gland is for breastfeeding of the baby. For the men, this is only receptor point of our chest area. Organization of the gland starts from the muscle tissue. Above the muscle tissue, we have a fat. For the men, this is so small area around the nipples. From the women, this is the different part of the pectoral muscles. Inside of the fat area, we have the ductal tissue, represented with different kind of ducts. Also, we have a rich place with lymphatic nodes, and lymphatic system is also represented in that area. You see in the middle picture the specific organization of the artery and vein system, how they make specific net around the glandula. Also, in the same way goes the direction of the nerves. So actually the nerve system, the artery and vein system, they cover all the glandular mammal like a net. So actually the glandula is inside of the sac of the connection between the nerves, artery and veins and lymph vessels. Just remember that area is so rich with lymphatic nodes. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide is a representation of different shape of glandular mammae. It is regarding the shape of our spine and how gravity goes through our spine. It is regarding also the strength of the muscle tissue in our thoracic area, especially the muscles pectoralis major and minor. They organize the movement of the glandula mammae and also the platysma. This is so tiny muscle above the skin. Organization from the women and men is more or less equal. Just from the men, it is not supposed to have a huge amount of the fat tissue inside of the thoracic area of the area of glandular mammae. Mostly they get the fat inside of that area regarding the obesity or some kind of endocrine disorders. So, organization of the glandular mammae in space is regarding not only the organization of tissue inside of glands, but of our spine and the symmetry of our skeleton. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is visible for you what is the inner structure of the glandular mammae. Actually, this is the combination of the duct system, and it is so similar to structure of our lungs. On the left side, you see this is the compilation of alveoles, and then that alveoles, they are organized in ducts, and the small ducts, they organized in the common duct, and they go to the nipple area. Actually, all the duct structure is so similar like a jellyfish. You are able to see on the right side of the slide. This is the ductal system, but actually it is so similar like a jellyfish. Also, the duct system, they have a different levels. And how you see, every lobe have on the shape of the reactor. And actually, that is the small reactors, the small lobes, they're organized with the duct, and then all the ducts, they come up in the nipple. Actually, this is one combined system of the small reactors on the name of lobes, and they form our glandular mammal. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is representation of the ducts inside. How you see, we have a separation in sectors, and each sector have more less the personal organization. This is like a flower. This is like this is organization like a leaf of one flower. So we have the duct system, and the end is alveoles. This is the same organization how in our lung. So the sector of the each alveole connect with the ductus and the common ductus, and all these lobes is covered of the connective tissue, and above the connective tissue we have the fat tissues. So like that, we have as sectors inside of organization of our glands. Also, we have levels more close to the nipples or more close to the muscle part of the glands. It is mean that here again we have a positioning of the reactors inside of the system. And again, I say the shape of the reactor, it is written for you like a lobula. Okay, on the left side of the slide, you see that the shape of the duct system is actually like a tree with branches and leaves. On the place of leaves, this is your alveolar system inside of the gland. On the right side, this is the organization inside of the alveoles. You see that we have the epithelium cells. They produce the milk during breastfeeding, and above the epithelium cells, you have some kind of myoepithelium cells. They are muscle cells, belongs to the smooth muscles. Actually, we know that the smooth muscles, they have innervation, and they belongs to the emotional part of our brain. Also, to the nipples during all the ducts, we have a muscle tissue too, which supposed to make a wave to extract the milk from the alveoles through the ducts and outside of the nipples. That muscles also contract and relax the nipples and areola place, where actually it is our receptor point of our gland full with nervous acceptors. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation for you again to see the similarity between the ductal system inside of our lungs, represented from bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoles, and inside of the glandular mammae, and also in our kidney. How you see, the organization of the duct system is so close to the hormonal state of our being. All hormones which they uh, regulate the peripheral glands, they secrete have the secretion point our thalamus and hypothalamus, and from there the pituitary gland secrete the hormones. They're able to regulate the peripheral endocrine glands. So organization of the ductal system is so close to the hormonal status of our being. we have different kind of maturity of that system during our development in our life. How you see in the puberty, the ductile system starts to evolve and to take the shape of mature tree and to reach the point and to be ready, especially from the female beings, to uh, produce the milk. This is the next stage of evolution of that ductile system. On the right side, you see how in each alveol it is covered from the muscle tissue. And because of the contraction of the muscle tissue, that alveol, like a sac, are able to extract milk from the alveoli to outside of the gland. On the left side, I just start with alveoles inside of the gland. Then in the middle of the slide, this is the alveoles inside of our lungs. And on the right side of the slide, this is the glomerula of our kidney. How you see, again, we have a repetitive model of organization of the structure inside of our body. So here we have again the net between the artery and vein system, between the lymphatic vessels, the ever in between the artery and veins, and organization of the nervous system. And why we need to have that kind of shape? If you remember, we spoke that is so specific shape that organize the small reactors, the unit of one reactor in the position of the combination. It is like to say that similar shapes of reactors organize themselves in composition, and that composition is more powerful than the working of only of one unit. And if one unit failed, that the other units will take over the same function. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is the representation what we have inside of the ductile system. We have myoepithelium cells. What I told you, they're supposed to contract and relax to change the diameter of the ductile system. So what does mean? We have again the autochtonic positioning of that system. Inside, we have epithelium or the cubital epithel, which have the specific function to secrete the milk, breast milk. Inside of the epithelium, we have a nucleus and a lot of lysosomes and different suborganelles, but they're so specific for that epithelium because only in that part of our body, in our glands, we are able to produce the gans material, what we call milk. On the right side, you see the cells organization inside of the ductile system. How you see it is again repetitive model of the reactor shape. It is like a cross section or longitudinal section. We have the specific positioning of the cells inside. Again, we have a layering. We have connective tissue. Then we have the muscle tissue represent from myoepithelium cells, and then we have epithelium and the water state inside of the lumen of the duct. Okay, in the bottom of the slide, you see again the comparison between the organization of the cross section of the ductile system. On the left side, you see if you make a cross section through the gland, organization of the ducts is again the same like in cross-section of the Bowman capsula inside of our kidney and in the cross-section of the alveolus sac inside of our lungs. So if we have the specific common shape with common organization of the units inside of that shape, so it means that in that places we have a common function, because how we say that the specific shape of some kind of organ, tissue, parts of our body speaks to us that in that place we accept, convert, and emit specific strength of specific gases. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is the representation of innervation of our gland. Actually, our gland, how you see, is so close connected with emotional part of our brain. When we have irritation of the nipple, especially during the breastfeeding, that irritation through the nervous system connect with the pituitary gland and from there with our thalamus and make the signals that the duct system supposed to work or supposed to react in the same manner. Most of the hormones, what they relate with that area, this is the prolactin and oxytocin. They come from the pituitary gland and they are with the backup connection with our thalamus. Actually, how you know the receptor which they come from directly extension of our brain and our thalamus, this is our eyes where they place in the face, in our skull. But our eyes, how they have a feeding system, they feed themselves from the fields of light, then transcend the information to the thalamus, how you know from the previous workshop. In the same way, the two hemispheres, what is representation for us for two lungs in the chest area, they give a feedback feeding to our eyes from the fields what they accept from environment. In the same way, if you make the comparison, we go to the next slide and I will follow with that explanation. The next slide
Breastfeeding is a way to nourish your baby with breast milk from your own body. Breast milk is produced in mammary glands. From there, it travels through milk ducts to openings in your nipples.
Could you
When
please
your baby suckles on your nipples, your body releases the hormones prolactin and oxytocin. Prolactin controls milk production, and oxytocin controls the release or letdown of milk through milk ducts.
Okay, I'll move on to the next slide there, Elia.
Yes. The next slide is a representation what actually happened during the breastfeeding. When the baby starts to interact with the nipple, this is so specific area full with the nervous receptors that touch inform the thalamus of the mother which one hormone supposed to have a secretion to increase the secretion. So what is mean? Of that part of our body, we are able to interact with our nervous system through other one of our sensor organs, and this is the touch. Actually, the eyes in our head accept the fields from the light, and how I call the glandular mammae, the eyes of our chest area, they accept the impulses through the touch, which is the five sense of our body. On the right side of that slide, you see how starts the change inside of diameter of the duct system and even of the masses of the cells inside. Even they change the positioning between them regarding which one hormone from the thalamus and the pituitary gland will be in the max production. Okay, then we go to the next slide, and the next slide is again video. Could you please, Rick? Thank you.
Your baby is born with the instinct to turn to your nipple with an open mouth and suck. To trigger this instinct, lightly stroke your baby's lips with your nipple. When your baby opens his or her mouth, position your nipple toward the roof of the mouth and pull him or her close to your breast. It may take some time for your baby to learn to get his or her mouth around the nipple or latch on. When properly latched, your baby's mouth will cover your nipple and most of your areola, the darkened area around your nipple. Your baby's lips will curl out and his or her nose will touch your breast. You should hear smooth, regular sucking sounds along with swallowing.
Okay, and moving to the next slide.
Yes, and it's important from that video to see that actually the nipple of the mother starts to trigger the uvula of the baby. And how you know the uvula, this is the small tongue, and this is actually the receptor organ of our thalamus. And this is the short connection between the mother and the thalamus of the baby. And actually, we have a connection between the thalamus of the mother during the breastfeeding and the thalamus of the baby. Okay, so the next slide is this representation for you how if we want to build the human body and the thoracic area, how the shape and how will the shape of the glandula mammae will look like. This is the picture in the middle of the slide. Because of the golden ratio and the specific organization of the tissue of our body, how I told you before, we have the specific geometry of the shapes of our body, of each part. On other pictures around the main one, this is the MRI pictures of the thoracic area of the female. And how you see, you have the different positioning of the two glandulas. So we have again the positioning between two reactors. Also, we have a different density of the two of them. So what does mean? They contain different amount of the fat and different amount of the connective tissue. And how you know? We correlate the connective tissue with the gas carbon CO2, and we ever know that around the CO2 we start to collect the fat. The same you get in the CO2 boxes. In the middle of the slide, I put the picture of the carbon nanotubes inside of the graphene structure. So how you see the MRI structure of the glandula mammae and the carbon nanotubes inside of the graphene, they are so similar. Actually, it is representation again that our body is the carbon organization structure, even inside of the glands. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is the geometrical modeling of the gland. So how you see on the left side, this is the green one picture. This is exactly like conical shape of the reactor. It is so similar to the formation of the eye, and how you saw that the eye conformation, this is the same like a reactor of Armen. In the middle picture, you see again, this is the mathematician approach to organize the structure of the glandular mammae. What is the specific shape regarding the gravity of our planning through all the directions? And how you see, this is again on the shape of the eyes in the half eyes, in the big, it is like on the middle of the shape of the eyes bulb. Also, if you look the thoracic area, you start with the each gland, like we have a nipple, areoles, and the areole margin around, and the breast tissue. If you look the eyes, we have the iris, pupil, what is the nipple, and around we have the iris, what is the areole, the muscle tissue around the areole, and the conjunctiva. So this is exactly the same repetitive shape, even in the outside view of the two parts of our body, the glandular mammae and our eyes. If you see on the right side is representation how our eyes, they are directly extension of our thalamus and lymphatic system. They are like a receptor to our emotional part of our brain. Our glandular mammae, they are directly extension on the place of our lungs. If you remember, we compare two lungs like two hemispheres in the star formation of the thoracic area and in the star formation in the cranial cavity. So the two hemispheres, they take information from our eyes, they accept the fields from light and transmit information to thalamus, and from thalamus to the two hemispheres. And again, two hemispheres feed back our eyes. Because of that, we emit information from our connective tissue, what is the white part of our eyes. We emit information to the environment. In the same way, our glandular mammae actually feed themselves from our lungs, because we accept with our lungs the air and convert the CO2 to the oxygen inside of our lungs and to the water state. So how you know, we actually make a gas conversion inside of our lungs. They are the main converter in our body. And why we supposed to have the glandular mammae in that area? Because that glandula is regarding our reproduction, and to make sure that our children will survive. And where they will survive, where the conversion point take a larger place, and it is actually our lungs. Because of that, we have on that place our feeding system, our converter system. We accept the foods and we emit the GANS material from that part, what is the milk, to make sure that our children will survive. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is the slight different correlation. This is representation of the placenta and uterus. Actually, placenta and the circulatory system inside of the placenta, this is the same like circulatory system inside of the retina. And we may say that in star formation in pelvic area, the function of eye take our womb and placenta, because we convert the materials during the liquid state in blood and the lymph from the mother to the baby. And we convert all the state of matter inside of the placenta. So, how you know the function of the eyes is to accept the information, to convert to and to transcend to the next part, but also to emit like a fields or emit like a guns materials. Actually, in that place, we give to the baby guns materials through the blood and lymph from mother to baby. Also, through placenta, we take all the materials from the baby and transcend to the mother. So actually that part of the female body is with the same function what we have in our eyes. Okay, and that is so important to know why we're supposed to have different kind of shapes but with similar function organs in the body, and how they are related to each other, because most of that organs we have in the female body and why we don't have in the man body. That is the so interesting question. Then we go to the next slide. With the next slide, I want to give you different point of view and to explain you why most of the survival organs from the kids we have inside of the female body. Actually, how Mr. Cage explained to us that emotional part, seeds of emotions, carry the main bank in our planet, and the female bank have the role to realize that emotional seed. How you see on the left side is this representation of our chakra system. On the right side of the slide, I want to explain you how the energy comes through the male and female body. Actually, the first chakra of the male body supposed to feed the first chakra of the female body. Then the second chakra of the female body supposed to feed the second chakra of the man body. Then the third one of the man feed the third one of the female. The fourth of the female feed the fourth of the man. So what does mean? Actually, the first seeds were there rich with amino acid. This is the sperm. So the life in our planet starts of formation of the amino acid. Which one GANS material is rich with amino acid? This is the sperm. And regarding the energy anatomy of the female and the male bank in the first chakra, was supposed to take care about the existence of our planet. This belongs to the man. He starts with the first GANS material. This is the sperm, and the beginning of life start with the man. We take incorporation inside of the woman and start coupling between the ovule cells and spermatozoid. Then when the baby starts to born, starts the feeding system from the placenta. This is our first eye where we take and emit information, and the baby starts to grow. And all the intestinals, small and large of the mother, actually they are again of the role of her eyes, because they make sure that the mother will take a lot and enough the materials from environment, will transform them to the GAN state and will retranslate to the new one being inside of her womb. And then when we have delivery of the baby, we go to the fourth chakra, the chakra of love, where is our thoracic area, star formation, where this is the place of glandular mame, and this is the second production of the next one Gans material, but from the female side, because she's supposed to realize the emotional part, the seeds, what she took from the man, and she starts to produce the Gans material milk to feed the baby. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation for you to more easy to understand what is the composition of the semen and of the milk. So how you see the composition of the semen is rich of amino acid. And so how you know, but I will repeat myself, that the life of our planet starts from amino acid, composition of the single gases of amino acids, which is the carbon structure. And how you see on the right side, this is the composition of the breast milk. And the breast milk is rich of carbohydrates. This is not from proteins. And why? Because when the baby born, supposed to organize and to develop more faster the brain, and brain are able to feed themselves only with carbohydrates, only glucose, cross the barrier between the vessels and the brain cell. It's no proteins, no fat, only carbohydrates. So because of that, the milk of the human female is rich of carbohydrates, not of amino acid, because the nature organize the human body to develop first the brain function, and then more slowly, then the organization of brain function starts to develop the shape of the body. In animal state, the milk is rich with proteins because the animal babies live in open environment. They're supposed to have a strong body just to deliver and to go and walk and run to survive. So for the human baby, supposed to feed the brain, this is our more energetic part. Because of that, the milk of the human female is rich of carbohydrates. Even in that composition view of the semen and milk is visible for you that we have completely matched in laboratory view of our human body, in energy system, and what Mr. Kesh teach us about the organization of life in our planet, and how emotional part like seeds come from men part, and the women part, female part, just have all the organs inside of the body to realize that seed. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide, this is a representation for you the gans, what we call milk in frozen and in no frozen state. On the top, we have the sperm inside of the hydrogen vacuum bank, but in the middle of the slide, this is the frozen sperm. And how you see, if you just open, zoom the picture, this is exactly like a structure of the bone. This is the middle picture, white one with the black background. So even here, we again see the similarity of organization of carbon structure, even inside of our liquids produced in our body. On the left side, I just wanted to show you the frozen state and the gas materials from our bone marrow and from stem cells. More or less, they have the same color, the same organization of matter. So, how you see, most of our gases, they are carbon bases. Okay. Then we go to the next slide. The next slide is this representation of our lymphatic system. And as I told you, just to remember, where is the conglomerates of the lymph nodes in our body. How you see, we have a conglomerate of the lymph node in the specific places in our body. This is the around the neck and the base of head. This is around the glandular mama in the thoracic area in axilla place. This is around the liver, and this is around the pelvic area where this is the place of womb and all the sexual organs. So why we need that? We need that because our lymph nodes, they are collector of the lymph. And lymph, how you know, this is the CO2 gas rich with calcium. So because of that, that part, they are around the places where we're supposed to emit the CO2 gases rich with calcium. And because of that, it is so important when you have disease on that places to not remove the lymph nodes because they keep producing and transforming the materials to the gas state to protect that area. Okay, so that is from my side. Thank you for attention. If you have questions, please ask me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kostova. Just looking at the live stream, I don't see any obvious questions right now. And do we have any questions from people in the Skype call? Surely we have some questions from someone in the Skype call.
Everyone is in silent mode.
Yeah, they're rather shy today.
If we don't have a question, just to follow with Mr. Cash.
I guess you answered more questions than we even knew were possible in that description, I think. Thank you very much, Elia.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mr. Kesh, would you like to move into further the knowledge on the mammaries?
In a way, yes. In a way, no. As we are progressing in our teaching, we see more and more in-depth connection between different parts of the human body. And I asked Dr. Elia for this session to be about the breast, because this brings in the total part of the human structure together. What this means is that everything in the human body ends up with the emotional part. The position of breast, the work of the breast, be it a man or a woman, in the human race is totally different than the rest of the animals or most of the animals. Through the time, the body has chosen the position of the breast to be where is connected and is close to the emotional part and physical part. And again, the same function, two, for two half of the physical part of the body, and at the same time, in connection into one entity, which is the emotional part. As Dr. Elias said, the soft tissue is the main part structure of the breast. And in reality, the same as nose was the detector for the environment in what we don't see, the breasts are detectors for the emotional part of the body externally. So the same way, that is why they are close to the heart. That is why they are close in connection with the chest. Because part of the blood, which is absorbed the energy from the lung, which is the emotional feeder, carries the information from the brain, the emotional part, through the blood system to the breast. Which means that's how we show, how we react, and how we see it. And in the same way, the breast in the human race is the sign of satisfaction of the emotion. In a way, the breast in physical shape, as we saw Dr. Elias showing them, dictates how a person feels inside, in the emotional part. We see in the families which there is a conflict between the mother and the daughter. In the hierarchy, when the girl grows up into maturity, they tend to enlarge the breast. We see the same thing when there is an emotional conflict between the father and son. The upper part of the body, which is the chest, grows bigger. In a way, you fatten up in the breast size. Because we have understood over time, in majority of the cases, we use the breast as a kind of dictating how bigger we feel emotionally inside ourselves. And in the recent past, we have seen the large number of breast operations because people feel in a different way in respect to how they can regenerate, how they can behave in respect to the environment and attention. Because attention is part of the emotional part, has nothing to do with physicality. When we transfer emotion to our child, we give them a hug. We don't stand aside and point at them, I'm loving you. We bring them close in a way that we transfer our emotion to the child. We do it with our father, we do it with our close families, we do it with our wife, with our husbands. And how much we respect that emotion, we decide in how close we allow them to come to the chest, to the breast, to the physicality. Breast is the only point of emotional transfer where it's the only point where Emotion dictates what physicality to show in respect to itself. Which means when emotionally you want to show a condition and a position in respect to who's in front of you, and you want to see how they feel, you hug them. You bring them that you can feel them. At the same time, the emotional shape of the physical contact in respect to emotion, it speaks its own language. You see people where they hug each other and there is a lot of love and affection. What do? We smell, another sensor. We look, we kiss. But the most important part is if you watch when two people, a man hugs a child, or a woman hugs a child, or two adults hugging each other, where the breasts are in touch, standing aside and looking at them, look at the way the emotion transfers knowledge to physicality. You see a lot of parents hugging children, but you see the child's hand goes backwards. What we call it a banana. I have nothing to do with this emotion. This is you who's giving it to me. You got me physically, but my emotions are not yours. You see a couple holding each other. The contact at the breast, which is totally emotional, you can see how the relationship is, who loves who shows emotion to who. Because at a point of physical contact, the two heartbeats, which is the true gravitational magnetic field strength of each person, matches or does not match, or has any common denominator, or is how we are prepared to share. One of the reasons for transfer of information in the emotional part is dictation of the position with the physicality. We don't hug anybody on the street. We hug those who have a true emotion or feeling too, or we want to explain something. And that carried, doesn't matter how thick you wear a jacket, you wear a snow jacket, 2 blankets between, or 10 blankets between, or naked. Our emotion is like the reactors, has no boundary. It's the field outside, which has got nothing to do with inside. And if you look and position the 3 base reactor and the thalamus, you'll find the heart and the nipples and the thalamus sit about the same time, same position, most of the time. How we feed, dictated again by the same position. How close we are to the child we feed is the same. If you look at the children till age of 12, even at the older age of 18, 20, they ask from their parents for a hug. Which means the breasts are in touch. You have literally connect with each other. It's the transfer of emotion through the physicality of the body and the breast. Breast, the process of feeding, it just happened to be there. But it carries all the emotional characteristics a person needs. Because Emotion is another way of feeding. When you strengthen the emotion, the physicality gets strengthened. If you sit and look why grandparents are close to the grandchildren, why all the people enjoy a hug, a cuddle from a young child, from a baby. Because at that point is a total energy transfer. The child, the younger person, has a lot to give, has no problem. The grandparents are in need of emotional support. And they receive it through the hug, through the contact between the breasts. Because through them, that's how they get attached to the grandchildren. We have seen so many cases when we ask elderly people, why do you want to live? Why you want to extend it? 95% of them, they say, because we love our grandchildren. I want to enjoy them more. I did a statistic some years ago in respect to old people and the reason to live. And they all who have grandchildren and they have a physical contact with the grandchildren want to live because of them. It's not because of them they enjoy, is they are the source of energy to them. The energy transfer is undiluted and pure when it comes to the grandfather and all the people, and they're very young. So in a way they are ashamed to say that we are receiving energy through the breast, because that's how they do. A child hugs a grandma and gives her a kiss. Young heart, huge amount of energy. A heart which has worked most of its life is at the end or in a weaker position, gets energy from the stronger. And it comes through the contact in the breast. As I said, and I always say, human beings are too physical. In the universe, sharing emotion is very common, but not the way the human race you hug, because you need a backup support, which is the heart, to allow the feels to expel out from what it comes from the brain, from the emotional part. We use the physicality to hide the emotional part of their being. Men have certain response towards female part in respect to breast, and is totally in position of what can it do in the background for them to be able to produce more of the same. Very recently, a statistic was done by some psychologists in respect they gave. I was explaining this to Arman and Marco some time ago. They gave exact the same news to a male reader to read as they gave to a female. They asked all the men about what the male reader news was about, and they could more or less at least talk about it, and they knew what they heard and they had a comment to make about it. And more or less 95%, 99% of the men listened to the same news which the women read. They had no clue what she talked about. They did not even listen to the news, because she was positioned specifically that her breast could be seen on the top side. So men psychologically, once they reach point of maturity, change the emotion from loving to the one who gave life to them, and they use it a way to give life to. Because we look at it as men, would that can love the child which I create with it. Is the time of puberty which the orientation of the use of emotion changes. Before we mature, and as a child till maybe 1 or 2 years, we see it as source of nourishment and a source of comfort. After that, we see it as a source of giving life, that it can give comfort. And then, female part uses it into attract in what she wants to get, which is what Dr. Elia explained, in being able to receive emotions from the man. Men are the emotional giver, and women are the user of the emotion, in how they can use to guarantee the survival of the race. We have compromised, we have given and we've taken, and somewhere in between, women claim to be the emotional part of their life, but in fact they are the users of it. And the men who are supposed to be without emotion are actually the giver of the emotion. And most of this emotion, in so many ways, is transferred, received, digested, transmitted through the work of the breast. The same pattern has been recorded by the what I call same sex. Even though there is no male and female, still they carry the emotion through their breast. As I said, in the space technology, the way we look as an outlet for every action, and the breast is one of them. Because emotion dictates the position of the soul, and how, what is done wrong and what is done right. And in so many ways, in different religions or beliefs, they have gone extremely out of their way to hide this part of the emotion, because of the lack or weakness of their own emotion. In the space, we look in how you transmit your thoughts through emotion and not physicality. And unfortunately, in the human race, in the physicality, or it's not only human race, on this planet, we have developed a system to be able to transfer our physicality, as Dr. Elia said, in a GANS state, but very little emotionality. But man has moved the breast to a position, or animals, certain animals have moved the position of the breast to be near the emotional support side. And in these animals, these kind of structures, we see long-term relationship, structured relationship, intelligence, and at the same time, development of the emotion. Monkeys are the same. It has nothing to do with how we embrace. It's got to do how we use the emotion part of the body as a breast to be able to transfer the knowledge of love, care, the establishment of the stable soul relationship, and at the same time we re-emphasize on it through sexual behavior, as Dr. Elia explained. How, what do you call it, chakra? What do you call it, point of the interaction of the fields in respect to different part of the processing. In the space technology, you do not look at breast as sexual organ. You look at transfer of emotion from one body to another. Where the daughter has a problem with the mother, you look breast cancer, left or right. When there is an emotional problem with the husband, you look at the breast. You can 99% ask the question, and our research shows which breast shows the problem with the husband. He plays outside, so I deny him. He plays with my emotions, so I deny him. And that denial ends up with a breast cancer on the side, which is nothing to do with the line of birth love. Dr. Elia can explain to you more in detail on this side, where by the side of the breast, even by the position where the cancer is, you can explain who and what, if it's a father, if it's a mother, if it's a husband, if it's a boyfriend, even if it's the children. You decide, the body decides, denial of life. Because if I don't have a breast, I cannot give life to another person to suffer the same as me. The emotion, instruction to physicality in the line of emotion, because that's where I gave life. Look, in majority of the cases, how the mother feeds the child. Always left breast first. Majority of the time, left breast first. Then to the right. When the daughter gets angry with the mother or does not accept what the mother has done in the long line of life, look at the position of the cancer on the left. Problem with the mother and the daughter. Husband unfaithful, cancer on the right. Because this is where the left was given before. Now right is left for the husband or the lover. Not all breast cancers are connected to emotion. But breast cancers which are connected to emotion have a clear cut line. Because when I don't have a breast, I cannot be, he will not touch me, so there is no emotional effect. When I have a breast cancer, mom cannot hug me. Then I got rid of mom. So, with all the physicality we've seen explained in detail of the physical operation, all has been set to dictate the position of the emotional part. Even though some breast cancers, especially at the present age in the Western world, become younger and younger due to sexual behavior and due to abuse of the breast and the emotion. A lot of people look at the young generation breast cancers, which is becoming younger and younger ages, into pills. In fact, most of the breast cancers in the younger and younger ages, if you go backwards, it shows younger and younger sexual age activity. Failure in love, later on, it shows itself much faster in the breast cancer. At the same time, abuse of a physical part of the body due to delivery of the calcium and milk from the hip and the lymph for nourishing the child. In solidification creates internal what you call irritation, which leads to internal infection, and then it leads to lumps and what you call cancer. We can clearly structure the cancer, and in the breast area we can clearly define it. We have a unit which has been used and it's been tested for breast cancer, where we put the unit on the arm and the breast, within 2 hours start rejecting the cancer. Lumps of breasts which are external cancers just falls off. We have them here. As we are moving today, we don't have access to the camera, but I can show it to you in the other programs. Collected pieces. And then when you look why, it's the position where we put it. The left upper arm through the lymph and the mother side. If the breast cancer is on the right side, it's to do with the husband. You put it on the right side and you get pieces of cancer falling off. We are holding most of the part, and a quarter of the breast is kept frozen by the hospital with the scientists which we work for the future, to see how we can make a breast cancer non-malignant through the use of the plasma technology. I've shown this to non-knowledge seekers. Still been kept here, is with us, is moving with us as well in our movement, but a quarter has been kept by the hospitals. We have done several of these and we see the process. Breast is the source of receiving and transferring. It's like a radar dish of emotion, and to whom we would like to show the emotion, and how we feel emotionally. Position of the nipple is a very clear indication in respect to, even with the men who think it stays in the same position, they'll find out no, shows the state of our emotion. I do not see any position in physicality of the breast, except a point where we have created in the human race to be where we transfer our emotions to the children which we bear as a woman, and at the same time how we receive love from the one who is the source of our spin-off or our children. If you study the behavior of orphans very young in earlier stages of their life, you see totally different emotional behavior, and it's very common right across. Even some research has shown with the adopted children, surrogated children, the same line of behavior stays, which means in subconscious the brain is aware through the hug of the mother that this is not my real mother, because the gravitational magnetic field of the emotion of the heart is not of the same blood, is not of the same common denominator. This is how in a later age adopted children find out, even though the mother loves them more than even maybe their own true mother. As I said, you can go to a football match with 100,000 people in the stadium, you don't fall with none of them. You walk down the road and it can happen in seconds because it matches. And all this information is carried through the physical contact. If you watch the behavior of adopted children in respect to their parents, even though the mother and father love the children more than their own life, you see the behavior of the children are different than the children who are born from the parents. So, to conclude, you look at the breast as a physicality of the life. In a space technology, we look at the breast as a way of receiving and working and giving emotion, and in respect, touching the soul of the man. Then you stand by and watch how people hug and kiss and greet each other, and you can see how false, how true it is. Then you see through the soul of the man in respect to the operation of his life in his environment. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Okay, we do have a few questions. There was one that came up, but I think you've answered it in some ways, which is, does the mother transfer her thoughts or emotions through milk to the baby?
Not through the milk, through the closeness, through the physical contact. We develop certain chemicals when you're angry, which the child receives it, but it's mainly done through the emotion.
And the emotion is something that's beyond the physical transfer. It's a field effect, is that correct?
It's a field effect, so you cannot hide it, and it's received fully. This is why we say, like peace treaty. Peace treaty is not a physical signing of the paper, in emotionally accepting to be peaceful. And sometimes when we lose our temper, then we remember, I've signed a peace treaty, what happened to me there? And that's how we get corrected. It is very hard to be a physical being and not get emotionally involved in every respect. As you all know, when we had the situations and the reason in my time, I lose my temper quite easily, because I cannot stand injustice of man, and the emotion is the only way you can show it. And I always say, I prefer to see the emotion outward than inward, because then you end up with a heart attack and a brain stroke, and you cannot even sort it out, or end up with psychological developments. Any question?
Another question came up about, so the eyes also transmit emotions like the breasts? And that's been somewhat answered before.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Any other question? I think something which, pardon, carry on.
Well, there was a question earlier from a woman who said, I have to refer back to the question exactly, but about her premature baby was not able to suck, and what would cause that?
That's physicality. This is just physicality, and depends case on case. You see, the problem is, a lot of physical interactions, like sucking a breast, and as Dr. Elia said, where the milk touches the back of the throat and creates certain vibration, which emotionally satisfies the child. If these kind of behaviors become very strong, then you see behavior in adulthood will reach to the same place, to the same position. So it is not that it's just a physicality which has to be completed. And in a premature life is different.
Okay, and then Mike mentions a woman in Houston lost her baby during birth, but when she gave her baby a farewell hug, the baby started crying and came back to life.
Was the child actually dead?
Right.
That's a question to ask.
The hospital, Mr. Kesh, good morning. The hospital had pronounced the baby dead, and I included the article in there from Facebook.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will help. But it goes along with what you're talking about.
Sorry, carry on, because I get a delay voice. Carry on.
It was just going along with what you're talking about as far as transferring emotions through the closeness and not necessarily through the breast milk. I believe that she transferred her energy and gave her baby life.
The problem with us as human being bodies is we are too physical. I think man very soon in space learns something very nice. Physical death in a physical body not necessarily means a total death. For example, if you listen to a lot of talks we done in the GANS state, we refer to GANS cannot be frozen. When we speak about the GANS cannot be frozen, it means the eternal radiation from inside out cannot be stopped. Doesn't matter what temperature you create. The only thing you do with a high, low temperature, you create an environment that the outer layer of the GANS will not receive transfer of energy. What you call it, minus 273 degrees or whatever, which has become fashionable. And then, as Dr. Elia showed, you put a sperm in a deep freeze, and then you bring it out and you can use it after so many years to create life. The reality is that the life of a GANS cannot be stopped, especially in a structured molecular GANS. If it could be frozen, the molecule will split apart, or the fields of the GANS will separate, which they don't do. So freezing GANS is impossibility, but you can allow the structure between the matters of a GANS to be closed and to be what you call frozen. So if you cannot do that, it means the sperm in the frozen tank, which Dr. Elia showed, still has a line of thinking, which is its RNA. You are freezing the physicality of it. You are now freezing the emotional part. And then, when you defrost it, the emotional part allows the physicality to take position, because the memory bank is, it doesn't matter which hard disk you put the CD in, it still plays the same music. Which computer? You take a CD from one part of the world, you go to another, you put in computer, still plays. You cannot freeze what it means stop life in a GANS state, because it's magnetic field interaction. Still, even frozen, the fields from inside travel. Is the matter part which is increased. When you freeze an object, you increase the layer of the matter. Or what you do, you reduce, you compact the field strength inside to the center. So you cannot freeze. Even you can freeze GANs, you might see it's stuck together, but it's not frozen. It actually shows a closer compact connection between gravitational and magnetic fields. All you do, you increase the condition of the matter strength level. And then you find out, if for example, you had a GANS, because we've seen we keep on extracting water from it, and it still goes there and still water comes out, as you compact it, you increase the outer layer. But in a what I call GANS molecular state, which I've used this term a few times, which leads to not only existence of amino acid, but a composite amino acid like what you call the DNA, or RNA. It has its own information carrier RNA. So what you mentioned is the same as what they say that Christ gave life back to a dead. Physically dead. But when physically you're dead, emotionally inside you're still alive, you can still give life. And then when the emotionality moves, it just sends the information to the physicality, and physicality moves. We had this case with a coma case in Belgium about 7-8 years ago. Doctors announced there, physically alive, physically the heart was working, but the brain dead. And it took me less than 24 hours to bring the brain, the emotional part and the physical part together and working, and she's alive. She's still alive in Belgium. This is what I said. Let the Belgian government take us to court for abuse or using medical applications. We bring the dead bodies on the table. Because we know how to reach the emotional part that allows the physical part to become active, and vice versa, in allowing the two to be connected. The hug of a mother. Physical systems, we do not have emotional systems. Very soon the Keshe Foundation groups who are working on the maggraph systems will measure your emotion, and God help you if you're lying. The wife says, you tell me you love me, and I have a meter in my hand. And I tell you if your emotions are real. As much as we're going to bring humanity together, we'll make tools of separation too.
I can see the housewives with the meter in one hand and the frying pan in the other. Do you love me? Yes or no?
Why don't we look at it the other way? What about the men?
Yes.
The reality is that we are entering a very, very special time in human race. That for the first time we measure our emotions. We can measure our emotions. We can identify our emotions. So we cannot lie. And that becomes the point of world peace. As I said, we unfeather you feather by feather. Now that we can produce the GANS systems, as we showed, it was shown last week by Evan in China, and other people are working on it. We are doing some work here in Italy on it. Then you can measure the emotion. Every woman will carry one emotion detector on their breast, and every man. So you cannot lie. So it becomes a very peaceful place. No president will ask for a vote because everybody will know, all the detectors will go beep, 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 beep. So this is what I said, we'll take the kingship and leadership and the presidentialship out of the human race. Because nobody can stand there and say things which they know they're lying. So a silence meeting will be a very good meeting for promoting an elections. So it becomes the end of the kingship and the presidentship and the prime ministership. Changes are very sweet the way they are coming, and the breast is one of them. Any other question?
I found it interesting, that last part you said there. It seems some people are thinking that we'll need to have that people's thoughts will be obvious, or thoughts will be read, but it's not thoughts that are being read so much as the feeling, which is beyond the thought, or more principled than the thought.
It's mainly the intentions.
So people become so sensitive, they'll know the other person's thoughts before they even have their thoughts, perhaps, because they're working on that feeling level. Are feelings faster than thoughts?
Feelings are the channels of thoughts, and the thoughts are part of the understanding of the working of the emotion. And the emotion themselves are part of the structure of the connection to the soul. Souls don't have emotion because to them everything is correct. So you don't need to get angry, you don't need to get happy. You're there on a constant basis of serving and giving, and if anybody needs to do it, you're too busy with that and trying to have emotions to be trying to serve it. And then the feeling is how you're going to serve the emotions. In the universe, emotionality is the characteristics of physicality. Because you have to take distance, or you have to get closer. Then you have to make a decision. And then that decision making is very much on the level of understanding of the true oneself. I had a husband and wife in front of me very recently. And I said to the woman, you have to sign, she wanted to sign a peace treaty. And I said to the husband, you have to witness it, because I'm the only person here and I can't witness it. And I said to her, now when you go home, you have to think peaceful way, that he'll be peaceful, and then because of it, you'll be peaceful. We haven't understood how emotion brings peace between both sides, not from one side. Because when you're one piece, at the beginning it'll be very hard. Then the other one finds peace. Separation does not mean lack of loving or emotion. Separation means evaluation of the emotion. You evaluate your emotions through your thoughts and then through your soul. The ones who want to be physically in touch all the time, they have a problem with physicality. And that is, they don't trust their own emotion. They need confirmation. You can love somebody without ever being near to them. It's for them to understand the emotion of love. What is love? Receiving unconditionally. So you pray for them, as we say. It's for them to appreciate what is being given and not to destroy it. Because at the end, you're the loser, not the one who's given it, because they already have given it. To them, it was something which was given freely. Then you find out why there is peace in the universe, because everyone gives it freely, unconditionally. And so, there is so much of it available that everybody elevates and shares. Going to this point, is there any other question? Have I been lost in the space again?
There is a couple of more questions, I suppose. In the chat we have, I remember speaking about eyes and ears, mainly ears. You talked about their emotional purpose in receiving and giving. So what is the main differences between the eyes, the ears, and breasts?
Oh, a lot. A lot. Huge. Noise is the level of the emotional physicality. Eyes is the sight of emotionality. And the breast is a true emotionality, which is independent of physicality, but true sense of understanding one's emotion. Just look at it. Sound, if it's at the light level, you don't hear it. If you make a sound at the sound level and you're deaf, you don't see it with your eyes. But you can feel somebody's emotion by just holding them or them being near to you. So it's a huge difference. Huge, huge difference. I can tell you I love you 1,000 times, but if you're deaf, you don't hear it and your eyes cannot explain it to guy what he's saying. And you cannot feel it because there is no touch. I can write in light to you or write on a piece of paper, put it in front of your eyes, say I love you, but you cannot speak it. But you can be deaf and dumb and blind, but you feel the love through a hug. You feel the emotion with the touch of physicality. Blind and deaf people fall in love as well without seeing or hearing another person. It's a huge difference. Nothing hidden from the emotional part.
Okay, there's a question that follows. Can we learn to detect the emotions not with detectors, but with our brains?
Oh, of course you can.
Is it?
I've seen people stand in front of you and say, I don't love you. It's not physicality, it's just, I love you because of whatever. And you know deep in heart they're so much in love with each other that it's all lies. It means I'm afraid to announce, I'm afraid to confirm it. See that a lot. We hide our emotion in the human race just because we see it as a weakness. We don't see it as a strength. When in the universe it's totally opposite. Races show their emotion respect because they find a strength in it. That's why we have an animal behavior and we kill. Our animal behavior, our anger, comes of the fear of not receiving what we give. People standing from says, I don't love you, it's just physicality. And you know inside, they look at it, if I love, I'm weak, I cannot be correct. Strange enough is, Love knows no age and no barrier. Emotion knows no age and no barrier. And a lot of people don't understand this. Any other question? I can teach you a few things about loving and emotion, which will shock a lot of you, but I think you're not there yet. Because you have to learn this, because when you come in touch, and when we take you to space, and as some people call me alien, you will understand that we know different way to love and show emotion and physicality. And it's in maturity of man who has to understand that. Because otherwise you'll fall in love with a four-legged 20-year-old guy who's from planet Zeus. And he has no emotion because he can't read you, why you love him and why it is. And if it's a true love, true emotion in sharing the essence of creation of the universe, then you will get the response. And all to do with emotionality, and we feel it's our radars through our breasts. Huge detecting system, which we never knew. Biggest radar God ever created, and we still have no knowledge of it. And we call it the breast. Any other question? Are we still there?
Yep, there is continuing questions here. Here's one that's I'm not quite sure if it's related, but we'll send it to you anyway. The the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which has different procedures for different levels of passing. If you know this book, could you please comment about the procedures?
Have no clue about it. Don't forget that I'm illiterate, I don't read books.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't find time to read books. I started 2 o'clock in the morning today, I'm still here.
You're too busy writing books and creating the future to read them. Let me see in the chat, there's a couple of more.
I just received something from Sandor. Let's see what it says. Oh no, it's different thing. Okay, carry on.
From Krasmir, he mentions, so we would need to learn to transfer emotions through our brains only in order to communicate in space?
Good morning. I do it quite a lot and people don't understand it. If you learn to convey your emotion even through your eyes, through your thoughts, you will find it'll be received. The ones who are dishonest move away and look away. They never look back in you because they know they're not there with the right intentions. And this happens in space, so you don't need to, but you transfer. In a way, you direct your motion, the direction you want to flow the field, as we say. It's very much like your reactor 2 and 3 working for you go to the left, or 3 and 1 working to go to the right. The eyes are the direction in a way where you can direct your emotions on the physical condition. You look in the eye of a person and say you love them. You look at them and you direct your emotion, your anger. You find out a lot of people don't like to be talked to, and when you look at them in their eyes, because they distrust in themselves, because they know they cannot be straightforward. And then we get people who are trained to look directly without emotion. All the KGB officers in Russia are trained that way. The good KGB officers all time used to have eyes as cold as ice. They could look at you for hours without flicking your God knows eyes. And they used to, even with their thoughts, transmit their emotions to you. But you could not, you never knew. But I used to call them the ice cold eyes. No emotion. But they could direct their feelings towards you and you could feel it. They were well trained in these things, some of them.
Is that the type of training, but for a different purpose that we might need to be doing while we're on Earth before going to space?
Be honest with yourselves, then you find that it's the easiest way out. You don't need to carry a detector to see, oh, if they're reading my mind or not. The problem, which in time it'll take for the human race to change, is not having fear of receiving emotion, even though you cannot replicate it or you cannot answer it. A lot of people put a lot of facade, do a lot of wrong things just because they cannot show their emotion. And that carries through their body. The way they walk, the way they stand, even the way they position their breast in respect to talking. The way a woman, you can read this quite a lot, but you always look at the physicality. But if I teach you about the emotionality of the physicality, then you'll run. I've seen people fidgeting, moving their legs back to front, changing the position of the heel. And I sit there and I watch. And I tell them what it means, how you feel, how you emotionally attracted, in the way you put your legs next to each other, over each other, left to the right, tip down, tip up, the heel of the shoe. Then how you position your body in respect to the two legs. And your, what you call the breast, or your eyes, or your head. You got to understand, then you don't need physicality, you just see the emotional side, and you see how they feel. But then the physicality speaks. I think when the students come to the university, they'll be shocked in what they can be taught and what they learn, that they cannot lie to themselves and to the others. People lie quite a lot, and I listen, and I watch them, but I see their soul and I know what is the lie. Any other question? Have we finished? Body language has nothing to do with the emotional language. Emotion shows itself in the shape of body. Body has no language, because it has to carry the work of the emotional side of the body. It's a very good slave, but sometimes it makes a mistake. Anything else? We're running to 2 hours now.
One quick question here. What about bottle feeding of a baby? Is it the same emotion transfer?
Yes, the bottle is irrelevant. It's a close contact. You don't bottle feed a child standing half a meter away with the arm length. You hold the child. And the children are babies are very good receptors of emotion. As we say, it's an old say, says they say whoever has a mustache is not your uncle, huh? So just because you breastfeed, you bottle feed, doesn't mean that you're the mother. The mother breastfeeds, but carries a lot of emotional love to the child. And nanny breastfeeds is just because it's a job, it has to be done. When the mother cooks, the child licks the bottom of the pot. When a maid cooks, it has to be eaten because it's food, even if it's delicious. If you've been in that position, you understand fully exactly, then you understand the work of emotion. Because the mother gave birth, through her rest, through her contact with you, she's already given you the food of life. You know, comes with a lot of emotion. But a maid at the end of it is what is there for her. I've been brought up in that environment from my childhood, and I know it fully. A burnt pot from the mother is 100 times more delicious than the most delicious food is made by a maid or by somebody who looks after. Because that burning comes with a lot of love. You do it because you know there's a lot of love and affection in it. And we usually tend to hug our mothers or kiss them when we have a food or we enjoy being with them. Because we give them as much as we receive and we confirm the relationship. We strengthen it. Any other question? Maybe if we finish the couple of announcements we make, because it's better to put it that way. First of all, tonight children's program will be the first half an hour. Will be live with shared with Mike Harris. If there is any problem, we stop it and we carry on with the Mike Harris shows. So tonight's children program will be live, the first maybe half an hour, 20 minutes of it with Mike Harris, that because the world has to listen how we teach the children of the future. It's no use shouting for peace when we haven't taught them the peace movement. The other thing which has come up in respect to the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute, we are receiving a lot of questions. We have discussed this before, now we announce it. The opening day at 10:30 on Thursday, the 23rd of April, is open to public. You can come, you can attend. You're quite welcome. The auditorium, which is about 130-seater, it'll be allocated, or if any surplus numbers left, the first one comes will be in, and the rest of the people can stay for opening session and celebration in other rooms within the building of the university, and it'll be live transmission directly in each room. So anyone who has been planning or thought they would like to come to the opening, you're quite welcome. The doors are open. The condition still stands that we will not allow, under no circumstances, no Belgian citizen through the doors. Because we receive telephone calls, people, they thought it's open, they can. Due to security reasons, we have to stick to what we've been asked not to do. So if you're Italian, French, or anywhere else, you want to be part of the new movement of the teaching, you're quite welcome. The doors are open. We can take up to about 1,000 people, but at the same time, maybe we need to be together as a whole to bring the new change in. We know, as one of our speakers tonight in Mike Harris, you know who is one of the speakers, will be a senior member, and we have a number of what we call high-profile people present in the opening. So if you're planning to be in Trani in district of Bari. Being Italian or others, you're quite welcome. The doors are open, and we celebrate the beginning of the human race together. And I do apologize to the Belgians. You've done a lot for the foundation, but at the same time, our lives are at risk. We've been poisoned again about a few days ago for what was left behind deliberately by the same person. And we nearly lost Caroline again. So we have to be highly careful. People of the close to the Keshe Foundation were aware of what we went through, but we have to be careful in how we allow ourselves to be exposed to this animal behavior of a few in the nation. I have a lot of love and respect for the Belgian nation. You've supported us. A lot of knowledge has come through you, but at this moment of time, we have to consider our lives very carefully and respect how 2 or 3 people in your nation are planning to literally take people's life. And they've done it so much they think it's their right. Maybe in the future, we give a special presentation opening for the Belgians once the troubles are over. So, if you're planning to be, or you are around Italy around 23rd, it's your university, it's your life, it's your decision to be there. We welcome you with open heart and open doors. Any questions? Or we close it because I've got to be online till about 9 o'clock at night.
I think that's good for now. So we have, what, an hour break until the Spanish workshop.
We have to finish the Spanish workshop about 10 minutes early tonight, that we are ready for the next session with Mike Harris.
Right.
There is, sorry about that, there is an interview again tomorrow with Kerry Cassidy, which is booked. And so tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time with the Camelot group. There is an interview set up live.
Okay, we'll try to get the link out to people for that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we keep the live stream with the children and we carry on into Mike Harris' show, so we stay together still on the live. There is something I have to mention, that Tuesday 21st of April, the workshop will be one workshop, 2 hours, start between 3 and 5 o'clock Central European time. There won't be any health teaching, it'll be total teaching about the Institute. We introduced you what I call the management team of the Keshe Foundation, which has been put together some times ago, and they will be there, most of them except one, we hope, in Tirani with us. They're all making their ways to be there on that date. And we show a new structure in the life of the Keshe Foundation that day, because it's the right point to do. So you can attend the teaching, or what you call the workshop of the Tuesday 21st of April in Trani with us if you are around there, because it's the open door and we'll have it together. And at the same time, we start the 8 o'clock workshop on 23rd at 8 o'clock as normal, till about 10 o'clock, and then we join the celebration of the beginning of the university with Loom. So you'll be, the presentation will be live on the Skype and everything else as it has been. We will not break the tradition. But if you want to be part of it, you're quite welcome to come to both sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you indeed. See you in about half an hour, 45 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, that wraps up the 23rd Health Teaching Workshop on the mammary glands, the eyes of the chest. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
system, but actually it is so similar like a jellyfish. Also, the duct system, they have a different levels. And how you see, every lobe have on the shape of the reactor. And actually that is the small reactors, the small lobes, they're organized with the duct, and then all the ducts, they come up in the nipple. Actually, this is one combined system of the small reactors on the name of lobes, and they form our glandular mammal. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is representation of the ducts inside. How you see, we have a separation in sectors, and each sector have more less the personal organization. This is like a flower. This is like a organization like a leaf of one flower. So we have the duct system, and the end is alveoles. This is the same organization how in our lung. So the sector of the each alveole connect with the ductus and the common ductus, and all these lobes is covered of the connective tissue, and above the connective tissue we have the fat tissues. So like that we have our sectors inside of organization of our glands. Also we have our levels, more close to the nipples or more close to the muscle part of the glands. It is mean that here again we have a positioning of the reactors inside of the system. And again I say the shape of the reactor, it is written for you like a lobula. Okay, on the left side of the slide you see that the shape of the duct system is actually like a tree with branches and leaves. On the place of leaves, this is your alveolar system. In the middle is all the internal organs what we have inside of our rib cage. So inside of the rib cage, how you remember, we have two lungs, left and right. In the middle of them, we have mediastinum. In the place of mediastinum, we have a heart, and also that place is so rich of the lymph nodes. Specific shape of the lungs, we consider that this is the shape, repetitive shape, like two hemispheres of our brain, like two kidney and like some kind of glands in our body. So it is important to know that the rib cage has the specific shape of our two hemispheres. Also, our two lungs, they're in the same shape. In the middle, we have a heart. When we spoke about the different star formations in our body, we say that in the star formation in our chest area, heart represent actually the thalamus. This is the shortcut for our thalamus. So above the rib cage starts to organize the shape of our thoracic area with different muscles. Some of them, they're on the deep level. Some of them, they are more superficial. They connect different bones from the rib cage, also from the upper arms, and have one teeny muscle, which is actually behind the skin, which connect and move our glandular mammae. From the men, the presentation of the chest area is with muscle, skin, and glandular mammae is in rudimental state. For the women, above the muscles, we have connect.
Welcome everybody to the 23rd Health Teaching Workshop of the Kesh Foundation and Spaceship Institute. Today's topic is the mammary gland, the eyes of the chest area. And with that very mysterious topic, we will be speaking, Dr. Elia Kostova of the Kesh Foundation Spaceship Institute will be describing to us the anatomy of the mammary gland and its aspect as the eyes of the chest area. Okay, without further ado, let's move into the workshop. Dr. Kostova, are you there? Hello, Elia. Not hearing you yet, Elia. Maybe we need the microphone on there.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Very clearly, thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you and the 23rd Kesh Foundation Health Workshop. Today, the subject is mammary gland and eyes of the chest area. So we start with the first slide. First slide is a representation for you, the organization of our chest area. And how you know from the previous workshop, our chest area have like a core shape, and the outside core, this is the rib cage. The rib cage have so specific shape, and how you see in the middle two pictures, this is so similar like our two hemispheres of our brain. So actually the left and right side of our rib cage, this is the left and right side of our brain. In the middle we have connective tissue, and above that we have a fat and organization of duct system inside and in the middle of the fat tissue. Then we go to the next slide. The next slide is a representation of the specific shape of glandular mammary. How you see we have a difference between the men and women because the function of that gland is specific for genital. For the women, the function of the gland is for breastfeeding of the baby. For the men, this is only receptor point of our chest area. Organization of the gland starts from the muscle tissue. Above the muscle tissue, we have a fat. For the men, this is so small area around the nipples. From the women, this is the different part of the pectoral muscles. Inside of the fat area, we have the ductal tissue, represent with different kind of ducts. Also, we have a rich place with lymphatic nodes, and lymphatic system is also represented in that area. You see in the middle picture the specific organization of the artery and vein system, how they make specific net around the glandula. Also, in the same way goes the direction of the nerves. So actually the nerve system, the artery and vein system, they cover all the glandular mammal like a net. So actually the glandula is inside of the sac of the connection between the nerves, artery and veins and lymph vessels. Just remember that area is so rich with lymphatic nodes. Okay, then we go to the next slide. Next slide is a representation of different shape of glandula mammae. It is regarding the shape of our spine and how gravity goes through our spine. It is regarding also the strength of the muscle tissue in our thoracic area, especially the muscles pectoralis major and minor. They organize the movement of the glandula mammae and also the platysma. This is so tiny muscle above the skin. Organization from the women and men is more or less equal. Just from the men, it is not supposed to have a huge amount of the fat tissue inside of the thoracic area of the area of glandula mammae. Mostly they get the fat inside of that area regarding the obesity or some kind of endocrine disorders. So, organization of the glandula mammae in space is regarding not only the organization of tissue inside of glands, but of our spine and the symmetry of our skeleton. Okay, then we go to the next slide. The next slide is visible for you what is the inner structure of the glandula mammae. Actually, this is the combination of the duct system, and it is so similar to structure of our lungs. On the left side, you see this is the compilation of alveoles, and then that alveoles, they are organized in ducts, and the small ducts, they organized in the common duct, and they go to the nipple area. Actually, all the duct structure is so similar like a jellyfish. You are able to see on the right side of the slide. This is the ductal